All right, guys, Boutte Call, episode number 1. I got one of my good friends, Jared Lindsay, with us to kick this off. Just kind of setting the table for what this is. It's mainly just, an open-ended conversation podcast, so we can talk about, sales, mindset, anything entrepreneur. I mean, really anything. We do both work in the same field, insurance, so this one will probably be pretty insurance sales focused. But, just kicking off, I figured why not have one of my partners here in our agency kick it off with me. So, I mean, really, I guess, Jared, you want to just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, how you got started, and we'll just dive right in.
Yeah, for sure, man. And first, I want to say thanks for having me on. The first episode. That's very means a lot to me. I guess first episode of Boutte Call. I love the name too, Boutte Call. Suits you perfectly. So basically, I've known John now for at least probably a year and a half. I've been in the insurance business now, going on 2 years, and I've found a good amount of success with this, and met a lot of good people. And, I didn't have any kind of sales background or business acumen prior to this. So I've definitely grew a lot over the course of the last 2 years with gaining a lot of knowledge from people like John and other individuals because, you want to get close to people who are good at specific markets within a specific space. And, that's where you can really just kind of gather everybody's advice and different experiences and kind of just wrap that into your own kind of method, and I think that's where you find a lot of success with that. But yeah, no. So I in the insurance business, life's good. Sales, business in general. I'm no longer going back to the 9 to 5. That's where you won't find me again. So
yeah, and so I mean, really, the reason I wanted to have you on, honestly, is because kicking this off and kind of the idea of where I wanted to go with this was mainly just kind of like I said, open-ended conversation, but kind of having a backbone in the conversation. And I figured this first one, I would just kind of talk about, I think the biggest struggle that people have in sales in general is the getting started part. And I think you did one thing that I admire a lot about you is that you did that really, really well. I think it's so easy for people to find excuses why they can't get started yet or why this, why that. But you just from what I recall, you got your first carrier in and you said, screw it, let's go. And you just hit the ground running. And you've never let an excuse hold you back. Cause I remember talking to you early on and you were like, well, I wasn't doing good on the phone, so I just went and door knocked leads. And it was so I guess that's what I really admired about you was it was just like that no matter what. And I think, I tell people the only reason I'm successful is because I was too stubborn to fail. I think you were just I'm going to make this work. So, I mean, coming from 2 years in the industry, and sales in general, because, sales are sales in my opinion. Now, granted, who you sell to, I guess, really dictates how you sell to them, but sales is sales, right? It's activity, it's mindset, and it's everything.
But anyway, yeah. So when I first started, it's one of those things. It was I'm going to get in, I'm going to get this figured out, and I'm going to see if this is going to be for me, or I'm going to keep it moving, and I'm going to, find another job or go back to my prior job, because it wasn't like it was feast or famine when I started. I left a job where I was comfortably making, $90,000 a year. Working about 7 months out of the year. I had a pension, insurance, things like that. But I knew I knew I wanted more, and I knew I could do more. So when I started with this, it was one of those things I'm going to get in there right away, and I'm going to see if this is going to be a good fit for me, and if this is something that I can do. I got a family to provide for, so it's not like it's just me I have to worry about. I have to make sure I'm bringing food home for the family. So. When I got in, I started it. My first months were rough, dude. It was rough, but I kept putting in the activity, and I was seeing that other people were finding success doing the same thing. So, and I knew there was anything more special about them than me. They had just done it more, and they had gotten those more reps in. So, when I started, I was horrible on the phone. So I was like, well, I'll take the path of least resistance. I'll go out to their house. which my upline was very adamant about not doing that. He's like, you set appointments. I was like, no, I'll try to set appointments, and in between I'll door knock. And door knock is where I really found most of my success. And like you had mentioned, I really only had one carrier due to some contracting issues with me. So, I just went out there and made it happen. There was no excuses. And as I continued to go, things just got easier. And I really remember it. It was one day, my first day, I did like 9,600 AP that day. And it was like that day, it just clicked for me. It was weird. It was like I had this moment where I'm just like, I've been really overthinking this whole time and overcomplicating it. And it was just like from there on, like I never looked back. And as time progressed, I just kept, finding different systems and different ways and tweaked and fine-tuned my method of how I ran this business. And, you just keep getting better and better. You start developing, knowing exactly how many leads you need to do X amount of, premium, and so on and so forth. And then once I found out about, really the most important thing with this is the profitability aspect. And when you're first starting, everyone tells you to buy leads, do this, do that. And you're not really focusing on really what's important is being profitable. So as times go on and you keep progressing, you're learning more and more. I know I get a little bit off track there, but just the no quit mentality. It was, I have a family to provide for. I was going to get this figured out. That's why it's hard for me to have sympathy, Boutte. And I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit to some of these folks that have came in and have been here for 3 months plus months or a year, even in some cases, that just are constantly complaining about the same thing. And it's just like, dude, if you just went out and put in some activity, like 95% of what you're complaining about right now would be resolved. But you're just looking for something that's going to be instant gratification for you, that someone's just going to hand you something. This business isn't that. And in sales in general, and this goes for all sales. Nothing is handed to you. You're going to have to work for it. And if you're not willing to put in the activity and have a good mindset about it, then, you're probably not going to succeed, and definitely not for, a sustainable period of time.
Well, that's what I noticed too, right? Is that, it was huge for me because I was really bad at sales at first, right? Because my mentality, and I think I completely agree. I think the activity aspect of thing is where most people fail, right? Because we want things handed to us. So it's like, and I have this firm belief that I'm like, we want to make things more difficult than they are, because we either want a reason to brag if we succeed, or we want an excuse to fail, right? So we try to make the most simplest things so difficult. It's like, how simple is our job, right? Like, so sales in general is simple, right? It's just listening, right? Our job is to listen to people, ask questions, and then solve a problem, right? And I didn't understand that at first. And I was trying to learn everything about, like, my sales journey started in cars, and I did decently in cars, but I didn't get really good at sales until I started selling insurance, because I was passionate about it. And I felt that I was actually solving a problem. And so I think that like I said, what I really admire about you is that there's no excuses. And we have talked about this, about the lack of sympathy, because when people call me and they're like, I don't want to make X amount of dials per day. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. You're not expected to make X amount of dials per day, but if you want income, you're going to have to do it, right? And so I think a lot of people come in, and I think that is an issue with insurance in general, is that, there's a lot of people that sell the dream and not the grind. And that's why even you and I, cause like for people that, most people that are going to watch this know us, but like we work together on a team, you know what I mean? Like we're building a team together, right? So it's like, and we've talked about this personally, it's like, we're not here to mass recruit people or build this giant team. It's like, we just want some disciplined people that are looking to run, you know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if I could choose one thing when I like mentor someone or bring someone on, it's like, just drive. That's it. I can teach you skills. I can teach you what to say, when to say, what to ask, how to act. But man, I cannot teach someone how to just move. Like, if you're not willing to just, and that's the biggest thing, is it's like, dude, every problem is solved by money. Like, money's not everything, but money will solve every problem you have for the most part, right? Obviously, the heartbreak and stuff, I guess, if you want to, get technical, but realistically, I would say 99% of the problems in people's lives right now is caused by lack of funds, right? And the beautiful thing about this industry is they can be changed like that, right? Like, we can easily just pick up the phone, and that's the thing. I see like laborious jobs paying $10, $12, $15 an hour, and I'm like, all you got to do is pick up the phone and get yelled at a few times, and you can make an insane amount of money in sales. That's why I have no sympathy for people that are broke. I have no, because I was there. You know what I mean? Like, you came from somewhere you were making 90 grand, right? So you came in better than most people in the industry. Like, when I started in the industry, I was homeless. I was drinking all the time. I was partying, but I put myself in that situation, and I had to get to that situation to look at myself and be like, okay, I got to put myself out of this situation. And like, not a lot of people know this, but like, I disappeared. You know what I mean? When I got in the industry, I disappeared because I knew if I kept doing what I was doing, I was either going to end up in jail for a long time or dead, right? Or I'd just be the same person that everyone else is. And I always look back at like where I came from and like the people that I used to hang out with all the time, and they're still doing the same stuff. And I'm like, man,
same stuff.
I disappeared for 2 years, and it's like, but anything can be solved with activity in this business and sales in general, right? And so that's why I brought you on, is I'm like, dude, you're like a no excuse, no sympathy, like this is what it is. And I think the biggest problem when people start in this business is they're chock full of excuses, man. Like
100%. You brought up a couple good things there, but one thing I want to touch on while it's still fresh is you had said how you were when you came into this. And even myself, it's just like, I've developed on many levels, as far as like my business acumen, how to run a business, how to be more professional, things like that. Because I've always kind of been like a dunce, a jokester, things like that. And I still am. But, I've grown a lot in those senses. And, I've definitely felt myself maturing a lot. And not in just in business in general, but just growth as a person. And I think this is one of those type of positions that will really do that to you as well if you take it intentionally. And obviously, you're a prime example of that as well. You're probably one of the most professional dudes I know. Obviously, you still like to have a good time and laugh and things like that. But, at the end of the day, it's business. So it's just, that's just a good point that you have brought up there. But what I was saying is, so, and I wanted to touch on this too. So what I feel guilty of too, John, is where I had started in this business, where I'd originated. My grasp on reality then, as opposed to now, was so skewed. I was just oblivious. I didn't know what I didn't know. But with that being said, I kind of feel guilty about bringing some people into this business because I had people that I've cared about and that have been friends, family, so on and so forth, that I've led them to believe in that this was so easy that anybody can do it. And I will say, this is easy. This can become easy, and anybody can do this. But it's not something where you're just going to come in and you're going to be a millionaire overnight. If you put in the honest effort and continue to take this intentionally, the growth you can have in a short period of time, like you said, your situation can change overnight. But I kind of feel guilty, some of the people I brought into this, and nothing bad about them, about, they didn't necessarily have the drive or, the will or the knowledge or any of that stuff. But maybe I had made this seem like it was easier than it was, So, so everybody can do this, but what most people lack is the will and the drive and the tenacity to keep going, because this isn't for the faint of the heart, the thin skin. And I'm not just talking about insurance sales, but sales in general. You have to have some thick skin. You have to be able to handle rejection, and the fact is most people can't. When you get, most people, when they get told no or, talk to a certain way, they break down. They can't handle that, but if you can come in and you can look past that and you can just grow to mature, I think that's another sense of maturity, just maturing past that, realizing what you do, you're going to have a lot of no sales within those sales. And there again, that applies all in sales across the board, not just insurance. But But yeah, and so moving forward here, I'm not recruit everybody, recruit my waitress at the restaurant, recruit my Uber driver. I'm not all about that anymore. Like you kind of said, I'm more at the point now where rather than me trying to chase somebody and bring them into a business for me, I'm going to let what I do in the company that I keep attract the certain individuals to me that, and I think that will have better success with that moving forward. And just bringing people in who are serious about this, because it's at the end of the day, man. I think for me in this industry, as burnout's a real thing. Roller coaster up and down. But I think if I were only ever focused on me throughout this whole journey, I don't think it would be like this. I think it would be like that. Because I can handle my own, and I don't get burnt out doing my own business. But I tell you what does burn me out is dealing with folks who, just don't have what it takes to be an independent person. Whether that's this or, they have to have somebody telling them what to do. And I'm not into this to be anybody's boss or hand out, W-2s. I'm in this to help other people grow, like-minded people with the same vision, grow, at the same speed as me, and then just try to help them along the way. So what I'm saying in a longer way is this, to me, it's pouring into so many people that have really aspired, that really have turned out to do nothing, is really what is kind of given me at times burnout, because I'm pouring myself into people who aren't even filling into their own glass. I'm pouring into their cup when they're not even doing that. They're just looking for some secret sauce.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the biggest thing, right? And so I think you hit it on, and what bothers me, because I do think that this is hands down the best industry to be in sales. I think sales is the best by far, but in insurance sales, I think that is hands down the best, because there's no reason not to succeed here. Everyone dies. You know what I mean? If you can be in a business that everyone needs, this is it, right? But I do touch on that same point. It's I think the most frustrating, I don't mind when people don't, because my mentality is, if people say no to me, it doesn't bother me. And I think that comes from a lack of confidence, that people are so they want almost to be appreciated, or they're afraid of that's why I think that people fear picking up the phones and being told no and turned down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lack of confidence in my.
That's 100% what it is. Yep.
It doesn't bother me when people tell me no, because it's okay, next one. You know what I mean? And that's why I always tell everyone, it's not our job to convince people to buy insurance. It's our job to get insurance for the people that want it. But to touch your point on the recruiting side, I think the hardest part of this business really is pouring into somebody and then them failing, right? And it's all because of lack of activity. And so that was my biggest thing when I started too, is I was I knew this was the best opportunity. I knew this was the best thing you could get. And so I wanted everyone to know about it. The problem is that most people aren't willing to do that's why there's poor people in the world, right? It's people just aren't willing to do it. So it's although you can have the best opportunity, you got to be the right person, and that's the person that's going to be willing to pick up the phone. And I tell all the new agents, I'm are you willing to dial 500 times, get told no, and then the next day wake up and do it again? Because that's what differentiates the good from the bad. It's not that we say anything different or have some slip. We just have the consistency and persistency to just be all right, another day, dude. Yesterday doesn't affect today, and today doesn't affect tomorrow. But I think what bothers me the most is when you do take all the time to pour it, because we've all had one of those agents, right, where this guy's going to crush it. Even if it was a friend, man, I had one of my friends and I was this dude's going to kill it. I poured into him, got him leads, got him set up, everything like that. And it's nothing. I'm dude, how? I don't know. That's the worst part. And so now I protect my time more than anything. And I tell everyone, I'm look, I even told someone this morning on the phone when they were asking me some questions. I was look, as long as you apply what I say and you keep up the activity, you can call me all you want. It's not one of my agents, just someone that was asking for help. And I said, but the second I notice that you're not putting in activity anymore, I'm not picking up the phone anymore. And I think that's kind of how it has to be in this business, because it's and this is what we tell people is nobody wants you to fail. I don't want to string you along. in this business if you're not going to succeed. I would rather you go work somewhere else, a minimum wage job or something, rather than be struggling here. Because man, it sucks when you're just getting eaten by chargebacks, and But I think that there's like 3 key factors in being successful in sales, right? And that's like activity, confidence, and then just persistency, right? It's like if you can master those 3 things, I think that anyone can do what we do, because it's like confidence. You have to have the confidence on the phone, right? And activity, there's no skill that makes up for activity, right? It's like the only time that skill comes into a factor is if we're both maxed out on activity. Because if you're better than me and I outwork you, I win every time. It may not be today or tomorrow, but eventually I'll win, because skill is learned, activity is there. So it's like, and I think that a lot of people new to this business or new to sales in general is they're trying to, I need better skills. There's a lot of if-thens, right? I had an agent once tell me, and he was like, well, when I find good leads, I'll make more dials. And I'm like, that makes no sense at all, dude. What do you mean? Like, you're never going to... Yeah. So it's like, dude, once your activity is maxed out, then we can talk about skill. But I think, and that's the thing that I love about sales in general, is like, it's the ultimate equalizer. Like, it doesn't matter anything. Like, granted, yeah, if you're good looking, it helps a little bit. If you're good with your words, it helps a little bit. But activity overall beats everything. And so, like, for all the new agents, and I think, and one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, because I've been in sales for almost 7 years, 7 going on 8 years now. I've been in sales, so I'm not a veteran, but I've been selling shit for a while. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what it's like to work another job anymore. And so,
I think that's a veteran. I think over 5 years in this industry is like dog years. So anything over 35 years in dog years is a veteran. So
yeah, I basically almost qualify for the IHOP discount, the senior discount. I would agree. Sure. Dude, I laughed because I found 2 gray hairs in my beard when I turned 32, and I was like, dude, I'm basically a silver fox now.
That's tough, bro. You better get some Rogaine for that, or whatever that is, or Shannon's gonna be looking for a younger one. Yeah,
exactly. And so basically, so my question would be this, and I think this, well, it's kind of like a 3-part question, so we'll just kind of take it step by step. But like, first part of it is like, when you started, what do you think were the top like 1 or 2, maybe 3 problems that you had, or challenge? Let's call them challenges, right? Because there's all kinds of things that could be problems. But what do you think, as a new agent or as new to sales, what do you think the top 2 or 3 challenges that you faced, and how do you think that you think held you back from where you could have succeeded faster, and how do you think that someone could either accomplish that quicker or just deter and not even experience that at all?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing, there were a lot of the things that really hurt me is I knew nothing about life insurance. Like, dude, I didn't know really what term or whole life. I didn't really know anything about any of that. So just going out there, and I didn't want to sound stupid going and meeting people and things like that, but I just had to get past that fear and going out and just doing the work and getting the reps and being confident that I was going to learn these products as time went on. And it's really just getting out there and telling yourself, just you're going to be uncomfortable the first bit, man. Like, and I remember when I started, like I had that anxiety people talk about of picking up the phone. And, I think that can be paralyzing for a lot of people. And I think most people go through that because you're not used to being uncomfortable, and you're scared of rejection. So, I mean, what really helped me in that sense was I got uncomfortable as I could right away. So not only was I horrible on the phone, like when it was just me and myself sitting here calling people, I immediately started getting in front of people, a large group of people, when the original live dials had started back at the previous company, and I would unmute on there. And it was the most uncomfortable thing in the world for me. But, I grew so much faster by doing that, because I didn't want to can keep sounding like a big dummy, you know? So like I got comfortable being uncomfortable in that setting, and was just getting some good feedback from people on certain things on how to tweak that. You know, and truthfully, if I'm being honest with you, everybody says, and I'm a firm believer too, when you first start in this business, you don't have to know everything about everything. You don't have to, but you need to be intentional moving forward about learning the products and learning these certain, or whatever it is you're selling, even if it's not insurance. Learn something about the product that you're pushing, because at the end of the day, man, I mean, if you can't respond or answer questions when somebody asks you even a very low level question about the product it is that you're pushing, I mean, chances are you're probably not going to be able to sell them that product. You know, so get familiar with the product, whether it's insurance related or not, you know, and be able to talk to somebody about it. And like I said, when you get started, you don't take this the wrong way for any new agent watching this. Don't get paralyzed by not knowing what it is. You're going to learn as you go out and you continue to, you know, help folks out with this. You're going to learn very quickly. But what I'm getting at is I still have people that are a year into this that call me frequently about very bottom level questions about products. And I'm just like, you know, if you were intentional about this business and intentional about yourself and your business, you know, you would be a little more familiar with these products by now, and not have to ask a very basic question like that. And how you do that is, don't just seek the answer. Don't just call John or whomever it is that's helping you and say, hey, well, what's this do? Or what's that do? Or how does that do this? You know, be resourceful. Call the carrier. Find something out. You're going to get good information, and be resourceful. If you have to work to find an answer on something, I promise you're going to remember it a lot more than if you make a quick text or a call and get the answer immediately, because you didn't have to work for it. You know, next time you can just do the same thing. If you have to work for that answer on how to find something, you know, it's going to be embedded in you a little bit deeper. So, you know, things like that. So, but don't get confused. When you get started, you don't have to know everything. But as you progress in whatever field you're in, you know, be a little more intentional about getting familiar with whatever it is that you're pushing.
I like that. Kind of like earn your knowledge.
Right. Absolutely. And my upline who brought me into this business, he's actually a good friend of mine, man. And it's funny, when I would call him and ask him questions, he'd tell me, just call the carrier. Just call the carrier. Like, I didn't get any easy answers on stuff. Like, and honestly, I appreciate him more for it now, because, you know, that's something I take pride in. And I honestly attribute a lot of what I do and my success to this day to that, is being familiar with everything that I'm helping clients with. You know, they have questions on it. It's very seldom that I don't have an answer for them like that, because I want to know, I'm the licensed professional. I want to feel like that and carry myself that way when I'm helping clients. You know, and make sure you're giving people the right information on something too. There's nothing that's going to get you a chargeback faster, or even in a different industry, somebody to bring a car back after you sold it to them, than you giving them false information about that product or that car that you had sold them. So, you know, make sure that you have the fine print and you're knowing, you know, what you're telling these folks. I mean, that's sales 101, and I see it a lot day to day, every day, that people are constantly misinformed on a product that they're purchasing. So I think that's a big one too. But when I started, another thing is too, when I started is just going out and when I would meet with folks too, I wasn't building enough value in the products that I was selling. It was more of a super transactional type of thing. And I've never really had a real problem with chargebacks. Obviously, I had a little more upfront at first, because it was one of those, I wasn't providing enough value. I wasn't necessarily out there looking to provide a solution. I was out there trying to make a sell I could post in Slack and I could get paid on, you know? And I think a lot of people, when you first start in this business or any business, there again, when you're first going, you're obviously just looking to get paid, first of all, and, you know, put some numbers up. But as time goes on, that has to change. You really have to start providing value for whatever it is that you're pushing, and, you know, making these people understand why it's a necessity or why it's so important to have that product. You know, and I think once you start doing that, and in our business, you'll see less chargebacks. You'll see you're submitting more business. and you'll see that, you're treating this more like a business, and you'll see that you actually learn to start caring about what you're doing, because there's a transition at a certain point. Once you start feeling comfortable money wise, if you stay consistent with this, you really just start caring about the folks you're helping more so, and it becomes important on solving their problems, and you're really talking to them and not talking through them. I think a lot of people, myself included, when I started, I didn't really talk to people. I talked through them. Like they would be, and I hear it all the time, and I try to help new agents with that because I was used to be there. Say, when they're talking to you, they're saying something to you, talk to them. Don't talk through them. You didn't even hear, before they even finish what they're saying, you're cutting them off and saying something completely different. It's just like, don't make it so transactional with anything in sales.
Yeah, and that's actually, I mean, as you know, I'm not a big fan of scripts because you're so concerned about reading the next line that you don't have a conversation. And man, that's when sales really took off for me, was because I'm just a naturally curious person, right? I just want to know stuff. So like, I just ask questions, right? And so when when everything switched for me was when I went and I actually started pouring into myself. And that's why I tell people too, is it's like the best thing that ever happened to me was not having an upline that was reliable. Like, and that's why I have no sympathy for anybody here, is because it's like, dude, I was homeless and I didn't have an upline that was reliable. You can't. I didn't have kids though, so got to say that one. But and so that's the thing, is like, I tell everyone, that I knew of. And that's the thing, is that I tell everyone, I'm like, dude, Google was my upline. So if like, you guys call me and ask me for everything, and why do I know that? It's not because I called someone to find it out. It's because I learned how to get information, right? I earned the knowledge because I figured out how do I get information. And once you learn to be resourceful, right? The lack of resources is such a valuable thing because it creates a resourcefulness, right? That's why I'm so grateful for having, like, at the time it sucked, but it built me to be so resourceful that, like, I know how to get an answer like that. It's insane, right? And so that's why everyone, like, it's very rare now that someone asks me a question in our industry and I don't know the answer. You know what I mean? Like, it's just very rare. Like, of course there is times, like, I don't know everything, but I'm just so resourceful that, like, I've asked those questions, so I found them. But
I know if I don't know the answer, I know you're the first one I'm coming to, because you have experience in this business, and obviously you've been through a lot of different situations, and and another thing is, you've had this true independence. They preach this independence in our business. For the longest time, I wasn't independent until more as of lately, where now I feel actually as an independent insurance broker, as what I thought I was since the beginning. But anyway, you've had carriers throughout, from many different entities, throughout this whole time. So you've had a wide network of different products to help your clients with. So
but there is a season for that, right? And so what I tell everyone is there's a season for everything, right? And so just how you spoke about being a bit right, and the problem is a lot of people come into this business, in my opinion, with an employee mindset, and they need to switch to a business mindset. But I think there's seasons in this business. Like you did, you're a perfect example, right? Because at the very beginning of this, you're like a bull in a china shop, right? It's like, dude, I'm just going to go get paid. And that's what you have to do. Like, how much more activity can you do in a day? Right? And you were just throwing it down. You know what I mean? And that's season one of sales in general. It's just like, get in, get your hands dirty, and get out. I think people are so scared to fail, it pushes them to fail. You know what I mean? Like, I got to know this first. I got to go that first. But here's the thing, right? 30 minutes a day adds up. So like, I tell everybody, I'm like, look, 30 minutes a day with sales training, 30 minutes a day with product training, and then the rest of your day is all work. Right. And so it's like, dude, if you get up an hour earlier, you can do 30 minutes of product training, whatever you're in, car sales, real estate, whatever it is, do at least 30 minutes of product training, do some sort of sales training, and then the rest of the day is just activity. And that's got to be outside of what I call talking hours, right? Because if you're, and that's what baffles me. Luckily, I'm not a sports guy, right? Because it baffles me when, like, I have a few agents that come out and they're like broke as hell, dude. They'll go and you'll see them at the football games and the baseball games. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And they're like, I got to support my team. I'm like, bro, you got to support your family first. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly, man.
So it's like, I think knowing the seasons, and that's the thing is like, so I've worked with different companies at once, but that's at the point where I didn't really need an upline because I never had one, right? So it was confusing to me when I teamed up with you guys, because I was like, that's why when I started working with Gage, I was like, man, hats off to him, because which is funny is it was like, I told Shannon, I was like, dude, Gage is the best upline I've ever had, but I didn't need him. You know what I mean? It was like, I was at the point, but hands down, like for real, Gage is hands down the best upline I've ever had in this business. And like, that's why I have no sympathy for anybody that fails in this business, and no sympathy for people that, you know, we have people that want to wait for X amount of carriers. And I'm like, and that's really why I wanted to bring you on for my first one, is because it's like, it's kind of like, you know how I am. I like to pop people in the face and be like, dude, you're the reason that you suck. You know what I mean? You're the reason you're broke. We're always the reason that we are in the position we're in. And it's like the second you take ownership is the second that things can change. Because and that's why I get into arguments a lot about like other things, is it's like, dude, if you're the victim, you can't fix it. You know what I mean? Like victim mentality is so contagious. But I stay away from it, because if you ask me hey, this is what happened, and I'm like, okay, you should have done this. No, but they weren't going to buy. It's like, dude, no, hold on. Let's draw it back. And I think like the biggest flaw is that salespeople get their analysis paralysis by analysis. They want to know everything before they can move, and they don't take ownership of it's like, dude, you suck. Right? Like, but the good news is I can fix suck. Yeah. I can't fix you being a victim. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, exactly. I think my biggest tip to new agents is like, once you think you've done enough activity, double it. You know what I mean? And then take ownership of everything, because I think that this business is so simple. As long as you're willing to put the effort in, the work in, and that's sales in general. Like, dude, sales is not hard. If you have a true understanding of people, if you're genuinely curious about people, like, dude, sales is easy. And I think that, like I said, that's when I got really good, is when I started investing in myself and realizing, wait, all the top sales trainers tell you to do question-based selling, right? And it's like, okay, that's when it clicked for me, is because I was always trying to tell and like, hey, look at this cool stuff, look at this cool stuff. And I was selling based off of things that I thought were cool, but no one buys what I think it's cool because I'm not cool. You know what I mean? It's like, so
that's a good point too. That makes me think, Boutte, is when I started too, when I would be trying to help these folks, and even I remember it was even like a little small $75 a month AP or something like that. And obviously you're breaking down these people's budget and things like that and making sure they can afford it. And these people, you know, they had money, they could have afforded that. But in my head, I'm thinking I would never pay $75 for $10,000 whole life. But I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand it. You know, so like, don't put yourself in their position and try to think that the client in whatever you're selling is thinking the same way as you, because maybe they understand the product more, maybe they understand what it does, especially when you're starting out new. I think a lot of people get in that habit. I know I did, and as you progress, you move forward. But don't just assume that because you wouldn't pay $75, $100 for whatever product that they're the same way. Maybe your priorities are in a different spot or whatever the cases may be. But as you learn whatever you're doing, you have to believe in whatever product you're selling too, right? I mean, unless you work at McDonald's, you don't really have to believe in a McChicken to sell a McChicken. But like, if you want to be profitable and successful in any sales, you really have to believe in the product that you're selling, or you have to be a really good con artist or a liar or whatever, you know, one of the two. But I did want to touch back on this, because I think when you originally asked me this question, my mind kind of went off on a tangent because I'm like a freaking squirrel. But what my schedule looked like? What'd you say, Boutte? Oh, you're good, bro.
No, the dog was in here still, so I'll just cut that out if you want to start that. She was like nudging me. I was like, stop, dude.
Kicking her, like, get away from me. But when I started, man, what a schedule looks like, and this is what I think we've really gotten away from, is really setting those expectations. And nobody had to tell me to do this. I did this because, like I said, it was figure this out quickly and know that this is going to be for me, or okay, that wasn't for me, and move on somewhere else. When I started, I'm telling you, I worked a minimum for 60 hours a week for at least the first 2 months. I already started working a little bit less after that, but I was very consistent for my first 4.5, 5 months. I was really, really consistent, working 50 plus hours a week minimum. And, and there was weeks in there or months in there where I was doing, even when I first started. My first couple months, I did right around 20K. My third month, I was over, and every month after that, I just keep going up, 25 into 30K, things like that. So I was making money, and I could have easily have been like, okay, it's time to take the foot off the gas and go and take a trip somewhere. But, I kept it moving. I kept going because that momentum building is such a powerful thing, and it really came to a point where it didn't even really feel like work anymore. I really started enjoying what I was doing, and I definitely enjoyed the deposits I was getting. But I think that people don't understand, when you first come into this, I tell people all the time, and I think it goes in one ear and out the other. Your first 3 months minimum should be nothing but just immersing yourself in whatever business you're in, getting it figured out, and just, being intentional about it. And that's where a lot of people lack in this is they get a couple good paychecks and they're like, oh, I got this shit. It's so easy. And then, they take a break and they get chargebacks. And then the next thing you know, they're drowning. That's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But, I continue to keep it moving, keep that consistency. And as you continue to move on in this, I was having a conversation with a guy here the other day. He'd been in this business for like 14 months, and he was struggling. And I'm like, well, let's look at the bigger picture here. You've had some good months. You weren't doing very good. You had some good months. You took a copious amount of time off. You got some of that momentum back. You were doing pretty good. And then you took another large amount of time off and had zero focus on the business in any aspect. You probably even had clients calling you weren't answering the phone, which is not good. And then, and so that I brought him back to reality on the situation of why he was where he was. And, it made sense to him, but people don't want to take a lot of they don't want to blame anything on themselves. They want to try to point the finger and move it in every other direction. But a lot of times it takes that serious talk to have that realistic conversation with somebody and, bring them back to reality and paint that picture of what their last course of time had looked like. And then maybe they'll understand it a little bit better. But it's just important, man, the consistency aspect as you keep going. And then, once you get this figured out, when you have that moment, because everyone I've talked to said that they've had that moment, and you feel like you've really gotten a grip on this, and I mean really have gotten a grip on this, you can figure out a way to maintain the same results with a less amount of activity. And I don't mean like work 5 hours a week and you're going to make $1,000 or you're going to make 30 grand a month, but really can minimize your time and effort and still produce the same results, because just like with anything, you find ways to be, more
efficient
at whatever you're doing. More efficient at what you're doing. So, but the unfortunate thing is most people never make it to that part because they fall in the same kind of scenario I was saying where they get paid, they leave, and now they're the victim and it's everybody else's fault. And then they phase out of the business and they don't really give themselves a legitimate shot at this, Well,
that's the craziest thing about this business, right? It's like, where else can you go and within like 2 days make like 15 grand? You know what I mean? And then people have never made that in a month, let alone they make it in a week and then they're gone, right? And what they don't understand, what I tell people, especially in our business, but in sales in general, it's like, dude, you got to be smart with your money because you can, and that's what screwed me when I first got in sales is like, I'd never made any type of money before. And so it was like, when I started making money, I thought I was a big baller. You know what I mean? I was like buying everything. I was like, I ain't doing laundry no more. I'm just going to buy new clothes. Like I was dumb as hell. But that's the thing, especially in our business, man. I think you're right though. It's like, I think sales is almost glorified now in the TikTok world and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, you got to understand that it's a grind for sure, especially your first like 6 months to a year because chargebacks are real. But I think that like if you can that's why I said like I knew that if I was going to make this work, I had to disappear, and that's what I did. Like there's people that were like my best friends from like 19 until like 25 that like just looked up one day and they were like, holy shit, John David lives in a different city. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, I literally like, cause I'm from Corpus, which is like 2.5 hours away from where I am. And it was literally like a 2-week decision. Like, I got a phone call and they were like, some people I used to work with, and they were like, you should come live in San Antonio and work up here. And it was like a week later I was living up here. So it's like, I was in hotels. I was, you know what I mean? I was like, but I knew that I had to get myself out of it. And that's the biggest thing, is that people want to grow without growing. You know what I mean? Yep. It's like, you can't get new results from the same activities, and they want to keep that 9-to-5 mentality. And it's like, dude, if you want to be successful in sales, it's a freaking 24/7 grind at first. And then you learn how to be more efficient. You learn how to, like you said, you know, really build a business that works for you. And that's the difference between people that stay self-employed and people that build a business. Like, we're here building a business because, you know, self-employed is like, you stop working, you're screwed. And that's why these people that stop working and they quit too soon, it's like, dude, you made 10 grand, you're still broke. You know what I mean? Like, you because that's why I tell people, it's like, dude, everyone makes $1 million. It's just who can make it quicker. That's the thing. Like, that was always my mentality, is it's like, dude, okay, I learned how to make $1. Now how do I make it faster? I don't have to make more dollars. I just need to make that dollar quicker and quicker. You know what I mean? And so that's always been my mentality, is just like, how quick can I make this freaking dollar? And then let's go. Yeah, no,
that's a good, solid point. But it's so crazy to me, because these people will go work 40, even if they're only working 40 hours a week at like a 9-to-5, they won't even come into this business for themselves and put in half that time to this, you know? It's just like, and then they'll leave this business and go back to another business working 3 times, 4 times as hard for a minimal paycheck at whatever the person thinks they deserve based on, you know, their position. It's just baffling to me. And there again, it just comes back around to mindset. You know, people don't look at the bigger picture of things like that. And honestly, I'll be the first to admit, I didn't either for the longest time. I had a 9-to-5 mindset, but one thing I've never lacked is work ethic. And, you know, when it comes to providing, it might be different for me, because I do have a family to provide for, but for some of these folks that, you know, we meet a lot of people who maybe still live with their mom, younger folks, they don't have a lot of responsibilities, you know, but and that's where they don't have as much they have to provide for. So it might be easier for them to just fall back into that 9-to-5 mindset, because maybe they weren't ready for a position like a sales job or something where you're more reliant on your own discipline and things like that, you know. But the thing you said about you're changing your environment, that obviously everyone's probably heard of that, but when you have like a flower or a plant or something in a smaller little tank, you know, it can only grow so much, but if you put it in, you know, a larger area, it has room to expand. It's the same concept, dude. It really, those are one of the analogies that I think really hit hard for me, because it is true. My same self, if I would have stayed back in my hometown where I'm from, with my same buddies doing the same things every day that weren't productive or money making activities or benefiting you as a person, you know, just boozing all the time and waiting to get off work and meeting buddies for drinks. I mean, it's just not effective. And I'll say there's a time and a place for all that, because I still do that. I booze and stuff, so at times more than I probably should. But there's a time and a place for that, and I still get done what needs to get done before or after, you know. So it's your priorities change, but it has a lot to do with your environment, you know. Get around people who have the same type of vision as you, or the ones who accomplish certain things, you know, because unfortunately, and I'm not saying about the normal 9-to-5 person that works a regular job that there's not anything wrong with them, but it's just they're very complacent in life, you know. I know for certain you and I have had this conversation many of times. Like, we're trying to be in a couple years, you know, we're both 32, you know, a couple years well before the regular retirement age, we're wanting to have enjoying our lives somewhere in a remote location, sipping Mai Tais, you know, like that's the goal.
Well, that's what I tell people. It's like, people want to talk about work-life balance, and I'm like, no. That I'd rather just work, you know. It's like, dude, I don't see anybody. I'd rather work 7 days a week. You know, we take Sundays off here and there now, but, you know, dude, for a few years, I worked 7 days a week. But the reason being is because, dude, I want to be done by 40. Like, everyone's like, oh, well, you got to live your life now. You may die. Yeah, you're right. I might. But you know what? I might not. And if I don't, you're broke at 40 and I'm chilling. So, exactly. And plus, I enjoy what we do. You know what I mean? Like, I love selling people insurance. I love sales. I love training agents. I love talking to people. I love what we do. So it's like, Shannon's got to like pry me from my desk. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, no. Like, when we're doing sex, like, she's got to pull me away. I'm like, no. People may be in the Zoom room. They need help. I'm like, dude, I'm here for it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I love it. I love what I do. So it's like, people don't understand that because they're so used to, they're like brainwashed to hate their life. You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing is that we grow up being told that we're victims and being told that, like, oh, you're never going to make it. And like, you know, but I think that's the biggest thing that I learned is that it's not, one, it is important to surround yourselves with successful people, and you should never be the smartest person in the room. But a lot of times it's more important to take yourself away from unsuccessful people. You know what I mean? And I knew that was my case, right? Because it's like a relapse thing, right? It's like I can be good for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, but if I'm still around the same, and no offense to, well, you know, fuck it, full offense to losers. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm going to end up going back to that same thing too. And it's like, that's not where my priorities are. It's like, dude, you know, it's like the same people, we would sit around and we'd talk about, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to be great. We're going to do this. And then a year would go by and we're like, this is our year. We're going to be great. This is it. This is it. And then a year would go by and it's like, dude, those people are still doing that same shit that I was talking to them about. The only difference is I'm doing it and they're not. So it's like, all it takes is action. Dude, anyone can talk about success. They can talk about, oh, we're going to be this. But the problem is that, you know, sometimes you just got to pull yourself. And that's what I had to do is I was like, you know what? Because I was around with the internet nowadays. It's like, dude, I was around successful people with YouTube and I was talking to successful people. It's just, I didn't put myself away from the unsuccessful people. And that's what held me back for the longest part. So I think that's the biggest thing is it's like, dude, if you keep yourself clammed up with the wrong crowd, like you're going to stick more towards them. And yeah, you can say you may pull them up, but dude, I'm not willing to risk it for anybody. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what's so beautiful about like what we have is in our group, right? Not like trying to promote it or anything, but it's like everybody here has the same intention. It's like we all want success. We all want everyone else to be successful, and there's no lack of effort to help everybody out. You know what I mean? It's like we're here, but the same thing is we're not trying to sugarcoat anything, and I think that's what's really needed in not only our industry but in sales in general. Is because like, man, I have like it's a grind, dude, and if you're not willing to grind, I'm not willing to spend my time on you. And I think sales in general is that way. So it's like, dude, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that people, you know, and I think that's one of the number one reasons people fail in this business is because they don't take themselves away from the environment they're at. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest, in my opinion, you know, it's that and lack of activity is really where it just kind of boils down to is I think with those two things, people's life would change significantly. But like I said, we're just brainwashed our whole life to be victims. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, but,
yeah, 100%, man. And, you know, the thing is too, and it's the belief aspect too, and whether that's just the belief in themselves or the beliefs that they're holding themselves accountable to that somebody else pushed upon them. I think you and I are a lot alike in this mindset. We're like, dude, fuck what you think. Like, I know what I can do and I'm going to do it. Like, I don't care what you think type of mentality. And, you know, I think that's important with this business is you really just have to have that I don't give a fuck mentality and, you know, stay true to what you believe and what you think you can accomplish, because if, you know, don't let somebody else's belief of what you can do stunt your growth or what you might have been able to accomplish. And I think a lot of times that's an aspect of it as well. So, you know, it's just there's at the end of the day, man, sales in general just aren't for everybody. You know, it's
and that's acceptable. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it not being for you. And that's what I tell people too. It's like, dude, there's nothing wrong with you needing that 9-to-5 structure, because if you have those priorities, that's fine. I want something bigger. No one got wealthy off of a 9-to-5. You know what I mean? And I think you're in the same way. It's like, dude, I would rather just like disappear for a few years, grind it out, make a shit ton of cash, and then be good. And now I can spend time with everybody. And if people aren't willing to see that or sacrifice that amount of time with me, sorry, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's my life, not yours. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I tell people, like, you know, people think I'm an asshole because I'm like, money's the most important thing to me. And it's the reason being is I don't mean money in general, but it's like without money, like you can't have a family. You know what I mean? You can't properly take care of your kids without money. You can't take care of anybody without money. You know what I mean? And it's not that money is important to me, but what money does is the most important. So it's like finance, fitness, and then family. You know what I mean? Because if I'm unhealthy and I have no money, dude, I can't support a family. And that's your job as a man. I mean, I know society wants to tell differently, but job as a man is to take care of, you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, if I don't have finance and I don't have health, dude, there's no point in me having family. So I have to make sure I'm good on that. But I mean, I think, you know, other than that, I mean, I would say, what do you think? You're brand new. What are the top 3 things that you could tell people, like, you know, as we wrap up here? What are maybe the top 3 things that you would say, like, these are the things that you just, like, non-negotiables if you want to be successful in sales in general or insurance, like, this is what you have to do. If you're not willing to do that, doesn't matter. Stay where you're at. Don't come this way.
Yeah. So first and foremost, number one, back to this, what we're saying, the activity. You can't be lazy or try to dip one toe in. You have to come in at this in full force with a certain intentionality. You know, you have to put in the activity up front. And then that's with anything, because there's a learning curve with anything that you do, sales related or not. There's going to be a learning curve. You're learning something new. You're adapting to that. So the faster you can get through that process and the faster you can put in that time and those reps, you know, just like in the gym to pump your chest, you know, it's just to getting those reps up and getting that figured out, the better off you're going to be. Secondly is, you know, you got to, in sales, mainly you got to be okay with talking to people. You know, if you're not, and you don't have to be the most personable person ever. I don't mean that, you know, but you have to be able to actually have a conversation with somebody. And if you're not somebody who's been very quiet and, you know, you've really been kind of secluded to yourself, you know, talk to yourself in the mirror. Just talk to your mom, talk to your sister, talk to your brother. Just build that motion of having a conversation like a normal person. Because at the end of the day, you have to have some form of a personality, not necessarily a personality, but just be able to have a conversation with somebody. Because if you're sitting at a table with somebody and you're just being super awkward or weird, or, you know, and I don't mean this to scare anybody away, because maybe you're thinking, watching this, and you're like, well, I'm not very good at talking to people. Well, you will become good at talking to people. So be intentional about having those talks and talking to people, because in sales, you're talking to somebody. Unless you're selling over the internet where you're not talking to somebody, I mean, you're going to have to interact with people. I mean, that's just the bottom line of it. And then thirdly, you know, is just have a schedule. At least if
you're going to be successful.
What's that?
At least if you want to be successful, yeah, you're talking to somebody.
Right, exactly. And then just, you know, this is a combination of one here, but just like have a schedule. Discipline yourself on something. And I'll admit to you, as time's gone on, I've actually gotten worse with my schedule, because I'm more comfortable now on what I can accomplish and what I need to do, how many hours I need to put in, with what effort is going to get me this, because I have done it enough time over time where I have that system and it's mapped out for me. I know what it is. And this is no longer just going out and putting in thing and hoping and praying that something comes through. Like, I know what it takes to achieve a certain amount of income. So, but coming down to discipline and a schedule, you know, map yourself and hold yourself accountable to a certain schedule. Okay, I'm going to start my day at X time and I'm going to work minimally to this time, and, you know, hold yourself accountable to that schedule, and, you know, just really give yourself, and and then you'll be able to see you're starting to develop a pattern, and you're going to be able to look back on that pattern based on the schedule and the amount of effort and the consistency and activity that you put in. You're going to be able to see what the outcome was of that. And, you know, this is very much a numbers game in our business, especially. the numbers will always work themselves out. You might have 3 bad days starting the week, but just that's just how it works. At the end of the week, those numbers are going to work out, and you're going to, hit a certain amount as long as you're putting that activity in and you're having that right mindset. So I know that was kind of long-winded, but those are all, 3 main things there. And I think if you start with those, I don't really think you can go wrong. That's people tell me all the time, the complaining is just like, if you're putting in this amount of activity, you literally can't lose. In our business, you're going to find people within that mix that are going to literally have a check taped to their forehead there and say, take my money. So it's like
begging you for it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So it's just like, if you're putting in the effort, that you literally can't lose. And if you continue to do that over time, a couple things are going to happen. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get better. You're going to be more familiar with what you're selling, and you're going to become see your bank account rising. And if you can keep doing that consistently, really the sky's the limit. You become your own bank, and you can print as much money as you like, because this really how this business can do is if you treat it accordingly. But back to one thing I want to touch on too, and like I said, I don't want people to get too caught up on this up front. Like you said, paralysis by analysis, but become familiar with the product that you're selling. What really changed for me as time went on is I felt so much more comfortable in my own skin talking to these people about things that I knew what I was talking about. But like I said, I learned over time with reps. I was earning while I was learning while I was doing that. Mm-hmm. But be intentional about that, because John, from our old company, I can't tell you how many folks that had hit Hall of Fame that didn't know questions about these products they were selling that were like very like bottom tier questions. And I'm not throwing shade on anybody or anything like that, but it's just like, how have you done Hall of Fame a couple of times or once, and you don't, or which is Hall of Fame over 400,000, and you don't even know like what this product does or the different aspects of this product and things of that nature. It's just kind of baffling to me, but that's another reason why that same person told me that if their wife didn't work, they wouldn't be able to stay in this business, because there's a chargeback problem. And there's a direct correlation with that, because you're slamming somebody into a product that you're not solving a problem for, and you don't even know how that problem or how that policy that you're selling them is going to work for them in the future. So you didn't educate them at all. You essentially just sold them something that you didn't know nothing about. So therefore the client didn't know anything about.
Yeah, I had an agent call me and double check, because he was like, hey, somebody from the same place I sat with I guess they were running field days together, and he was like, yeah, he's over here telling clients that, the term policies build cash value. I'm not wrong. They don't do that, right? And I was like, no, they don't. So it's like another Hall of Fame earner too. And I'm like, well, no wonder you're selling so much, dude. You're lying to people. But then your chargeback ratio is huge.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And that's another thing, John, before we wrapped up here, this is something I wanted to touch on, because I think this is important. And this is something that's not talked about a lot. And I honestly myself, I didn't really even know about this until about a year in. And that's what the chargebacks, in this business, specifically in our business, there's something that is called a chargeback. When you get paid in advance on a policy after you make a sell, if that policy, you get a 9-month advance, most carriers, let's say that policy is canceled 3 months down the road, you don't have to pay back the full 9 months, but you're just going to owe them 6 months on that 9-month advance, for those who are kind of new to this. But building a team with this is not something that's really talked about a lot. When you're building a team for somebody as an upline, you are signing off on them that if something happens, they have chargeback debt, roll-up debt, lead debt, whatever, you are the one that's on the hook for that. So there is a lot of risk associated with building a team that a lot of people don't know when you come into this, that you can really be blindsided by this. For instance, lost my train of thought here, but so the risk and liability aspect. So that's another thing. When moving forward, now that I know and what I know, I'm going to be very selective on the people that I choose to work with, because you and I talk about this a lot. There's risk and there's liability. You're taking a lot of risk, and there are assets and there's liabilities. You are taking a lot of risk on liabilities when you have somebody in your downline. You know, there is reward in there as well if you got somebody who is an asset that takes this intentionally and comes in this and treats this like a business. But let's be honest, most folks come into this and they phase out quickly because they don't treat this like a business. So therefore, you could be on the hook for, you know, a good amount of money from somebody if they were to leave the business. Now, yes, that money that rolls up to you and you can send them to collections, you can take them to court, you can do whatever. But at the end of the day, that's going to be your responsibility and that headache that you're going to have to deal with. Now, me personally, I haven't really had to deal with this. I've never had a really large team. But I know a lot of people who have been really devastated by this, and you know, some people who've been knocked out of the business by this, and some people that, you know, have really been misguided in this sense. So I know that's kind of maybe a little further beyond for the new agent if this is who this is geared towards, but this is definitely something that needs to be talked about and discussed that people need to know. Because if you're responsible for yourself, that's one thing, but when you're getting an override from somebody and you have somebody in your downline, you then become responsible for them as well. And, you know, the sad truth is, you know, a lot of people don't make it in this business just because they don't put in the effort or they don't have the right guidance, for a variety of different reasons. But any business they had written while they were in this business falls off, that will go to you. So just have the proper systems and precautions in place to, you know, handle that type of thing, making sure you're having those conversations with people that you're bringing on that have aspirations to build a team, but just knowing what you're doing. Because unfortunately, where I started, we didn't have that guidance. You know, all they showed us was the bright lights and what, you know, could be done and this and that. And really, you know, all that's, you know, you can have mass success in this business, but there is a lot of risk that comes along with that. And I think it's very misguiding and misleading when you're not informing folks of that, who, you know, you're just kind of dangling that carrot and then showing them all the bright, shiny stuff, but really not showing them the dirt that it comes from, you know?
Yeah, and that's you know, why I was saying earlier about people kind of selling the dream and not the grind. And it's like, you know, chargebacks are real. Roll-up debt is extremely real in this business. But I think that's what also differentiates the people that actually treat this like a business and the people that treat it like just trying to make a buck. You know what I mean? Because you know the agents that are just like trying to make a buck. They're the ones that are looking through which company pays me the most for this. I'm going to, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, who cares? We get paid great for what we do. But, you know, and that's why I tell people, like, that's the biggest thing that people don't understand is when they have income, dude, that's a business loan, dude. For 9 months, you got a business loan. That's it. So treat it as so. So don't go and blow it. You know, what I tell people is have a good system in place. And I talk to all my agents about this, is like, this is how you should build your business in the sense of how your finances should be. Like, you should have, when your money comes in, you got to treat it like a business, right? So you take a certain percentage, put it away for taxes, take another percentage, put it away for chargebacks. And if you run your business properly and you know and that's why tracking your numbers is so important as well, is because you can predict your income, but you can also predict your business expenses on the way out, whether it be chargebacks, taxes, everything like that. So it's like, you know, it is a real thing. So, you know, that's why we don't just bring on anybody. We vet them probably just as much, if not more, than they vet us, because, you know, and, you know, that's what I really don't like about the whole, you know, just getting into the insurance group. You know, you look on Facebook and everyone's like, oh, well, I got to interview my upline, and everyone's so about, you know, interviewing their upline. And I'm like, the liability falls on the upline. You know, yeah, maybe you get with a shitty company and they hold your contracts for 6 months, but I mean, dude, it's 6 months. Whereas, you know, you get someone that comes back and writes, let's say, $100,000 in faulty business. I mean, that's a roll up, dude. Yeah. So, you know, that's the biggest thing. But, you know, and it comes with vetting your people, understanding, you know, who they are, and catching it on time. But that, I mean, not to scare people away, but it is a real thing. But you can prevent those things as well as have, like I said, I mean, if you run your business like a business, you got to think about, I mean, Target has theft. You know what I mean? They have they already have it calculated into their profits. Same thing with your insurance business. You should calculate what your chargeback rate is. And of course, when you first start, it's going to be higher because you're learning the products and because you don't know how to solve a problem. You're just trying to push something. And, so it's like as your chargeback rate goes down, you can adjust those numbers. But what I tell people is, man, your first 3 to 6 months, none of that money is yours anyways. I mean, pay your bills for sure, but don't be going on vacations. Imagine, and that's the biggest thing is like, dude, most people are such shitty bosses to themselves. It's like, dude, imagine going and working somewhere and then 3 months in or 2 months in being like, all right, I'm taking a month off. See y'all later. Like, what? Nobody would do that, but we do it to ourselves. It's like, dude, you wouldn't even ask a company to have vacation after a month, 2 months, 3 months, shoot 6 months in working for them. But you're going to go and take 3 vacations in 2 months because you made a couple $1,000s. Dude, newsflash, 10 grand a month is broke still. You know what I mean? It's like, so, that's the biggest thing is treating your business like a business, understanding that chargebacks are real. And that's the thing is like, I think, and you're right, like our previous company did that very well, of marketing the highlights of the business and not pushing on the negative things, because there's pros and cons to everything. But that's why we're more realistic about what we tell people. It's like, dude, like I said, I'm not here to dictate whether you're going to do good or not in this business. I'm here to show opportunity to people. And if you can put in the effort, I can teach you the skill, right? And that's my biggest thing. And that's really where we're at in understanding, like, if you go and blow your cash and you can't buy leads, don't come to me, man, because you screwed yourself. Like I said, man, people are going and spending money that money's not yours for 9 months. Like, yeah, we get deposits, which is great. Like, that's what keeps our business afloat. But like, that money's not yours for 9 months. So after 9 months, you can, dictate what that money is. But it's like me, like every dollar that comes in, I take 20% of. So it's like, and that's the thing, what's so good about this business is you can predict how much money you're going to make. So I know what money I need to make based off of that 20%. Okay, how much annual premium do I need to go? Or, I do a lot of annuities. So how many annuities, what kind of, rollovers do I need to do? And it's like, okay, if I want $2,000 a week after taxes, everything, because that's what it is. Okay, so I just need to push through $10,000 a week in commissions for me to keep two. And I think that's the biggest thing in this business is like I said, knowing your seasons, right? Coming in, bull in a china shop, just get cash, push. And that's the thing is it's like, dude, 30 minutes, like that's why I love sales is like, dude, what other way can you learn and earn this much money? You know what I mean? Like you can literally make $10,000 a month while learning your profession. That's insane to me. Most people go into massive debt and then ask the government to bail them out because they're dumbasses. But that's the biggest thing is like here you can literally make $10,000 a month in any sales position while you learn. But that's the key is learning. So it's like what I tell people, you want to be successful, you want to do what successful people do. Well, every morning you need to strengthen your body, strengthen your mind, and do something uncomfortable. If you can do that every single morning, right, dude, you're going to be successful. No matter, it may take time, but dude, that's really all it is. But I'm glad you, and that's kind of what this podcast is really all about, is just being real. And obviously we knew this was going to be more insurance influence just because we're both in the insurance business. We both work together. And so I think that is a good thing to know from outside perspective is like, dude, the insurance industry is extremely lucrative, but you have to treat it like a business. You're not self-employed. You're not an employee. Like you're a business owner. And if you don't do it, you're going to go into debt, right?
Absolutely.
Big risk comes big reward. And if you can put in activity, I think that's the biggest thing is like, I don't know of any other industry that pays the way it does. That's why everyone's jumping into it, right? That's why like Bradley joined up and then, you know what I mean? It's like, because dude, the money is disgustingly real here. If you can solve a problem, if you can learn how to solve a problem, you'll never be poor, ever, right? The problem is that most people just play that victim mentality and they want to blame everything for their shitty situations. Dude, you're broke because you go to the bar 3 times a week. You're broke because you'd rather go out with your friends and pick up an extra shift. You're broke because you're not willing to get uncomfortable. Like, dude, that's the biggest problem. But, I mean, dude, I could sit here all night long, man. Before wrapping up, do you have any last tidbits of...
Yeah, so I keep thinking of things you're talking, and can't ever remember what I want to say. But first of all, I want to say that the insurance business has been great to me. No, I've just got a bad memory. This big head's for nothing. But I know where I'm going to in my business, in my money making is in the insurance business, and I'm going to pick up different ways of passive income along the way. I'm sure to ways to invest the money I've made and to continue to build money for me in the long run. So, I mean, at the end of the day, man, it's just, you just, if you come in, you go to work, you can be coachable, and you just always strive to get better. I mean, you literally can't lose with this. This is not something you're going to come in and everyone starts with final expense in our business. It's the easiest to get started with, easiest to understand. It's the bread and butter of this, but, come in and be intentional about your growth, your learning. Move on to mortgage protection, move on to advanced market things, move on to Medicare, move on to different lines of income, and you learn how to use your license. You'll see that it's so lucrative, man. It's been a blessing to me, my family, and I know I'm just looking to continue to grow with the right people, and we all can look back here in 5, 7, 8 years from now and enjoy life and just say we went through that and it was good to us and we helped a lot of people along the way, clients and agents. So I know we'll all be able to say that. So just I will say just be careful where you plant your flag. If you're new to the business or currently at a specific place, just be careful where you plant your flag at. Ask questions. Don't just believe everything everybody tells you. You want to know certain things. Are you really an independent broker? Are there contracts? Can you get releases? Things like that. The debt situation. What individual comps on individual carriers. Because a lot of people will tell you you're at X comp, but really only one or two things actually pay that comp. Just being intentional about it. It really just comes back down to build something intentionally and be intentional about your growth and treat it that way. But come in, just with anybody. Really, like I said, anybody can do this, but what most people lack is just the drive, the tenacity, and just the confidence. And that's really as simple as it is. If you have those three attributes, I don't think you can fail at this. And I just want to say, Boutte, once again, it's an honor to be on the first episode of Boutte Call. I know you and I could talk all day along like this. I call you for a 5-minute convo, and next thing I know, we'll be talking for 40 minutes plus. So I know we could carry on and on about this, but it's a pleasure to be in business with you, man. And I'm excited where we're heading. I know we got a lot of good people in our corner, and I think we got a lot of good things ahead. So,
yep. So, and just to finish up with, which here we go again, but just to add on to it, I think that the biggest thing for people is to be able to fail and get back up and do the same thing over the next day. And that's what I tell all my agents. I'm like, look, if someone joins on our team with us, which we'll talk about here in a second before we end, but I let them know. I'm like, are you the type of person that's willing to pick up the phone and dial 300, 400, 500 times today and get nothing out of it and do it again tomorrow and again and again and again? And if so, how long are you willing to do that before you give up? Because it's not a matter of whether you succeed or fail. It's just when you give up, right? Because this business is the only people that are successful in this business are the ones that were too stubborn to fail. Like we all went through the same stuff. We all made weeks and weeks with $0. It's like, how willing are you to do that? And I think and it's not for everyone. Like some people can't go through the trenches with $0 and just say, I know this is going to work out. I'm going to keep doing it. Some people can't do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. But, we could talk forever about it. But, so Jared, one of the leaders at Safe Haven Agency, right? I'm sure I'll have plenty of other people from the agency there. If you guys are interested in the insurance business. That's how he planted his flag in sales. He's on Facebook, Instagram, Jay Lindsay. It's with A, not an E. I think I still have you saved in my phone with Lindsay with an E. But
I get it all the time.
Instagram.
Yeah, Jared Lindsay on Facebook, JREDLINDSAY. IG, mine's pretty pathetic. I'm trying to get that worked up. I only created it for the business and to meet people through that avenue as well. And that's JLindsay1990 at JLindsay1990. You can reach out to me personally, my personal line, 309-883-1865. If you're in this insurance space and you have any questions, or maybe anything I said correlated with you in sales in general, you can reach out to me. I will tell you, I feel like I've helped definitely. Oh, I know I've definitely helped more people that I didn't have monetary value through, because I'm willing to literally help anybody that is willing to help themselves. So if you just have any questions, things like that, I gladly help you out any way I can, because at the end of the day, if I can help somebody feed themselves, feed their family, find a niche in something that they, can excel at, I'm glad to do that. So, you can reach me at any of those spots there, and be glad to help you out.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And so Safe Haven Agency, you can look it up. If you have any questions, reach out to Jared. We're all leadership there. Happy to help anybody. Not that I was trying to promote the insurance industry, but I mean, if you're in sales, if you have questions, if you're in the insurance industry and you feel like you're not getting what you need from your upline, from your mentorship, we're happy to have a conversation. Although, just like this call was about, we're going to focus on your activity first and foremost to see if there's anything that we can do. And then for me, obviously, First Boutte Call podcast. You can find me Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I also have a website being built out, johndavidboutte.com. Mentorship, coaching, but that's what we do.